Imagine being the young starry-eyed sprout who was logged in for the first time, having bought the game because of the cool dual-wielding Viper from the Dawntrail trailer. Or better yet, you wanna...
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
How's it going, Warriors alike? I'm Myth, the lad fell born in a wooden cabin I built with my bare hands, and we are back and ready to dive deep into the world of Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're tackling a topic that has been bugging more players than an Uriange monologue: the leveling system, level syncing, and whether 400 hours of grinding is just a bit too much. Final Fantasy XIV is known for its epic story and breathtaking world, but let's be real, the leveling system can feel like trying to climb Mount Everest in Crocs or flip-flops. Side rant! I'm officially disowning anyone who wears Crocs. No reason needed. With the current max level set at 90, new players face the Herculean task, which can take upwards of 400 hours of gameplay. 400 hours! That's around the same time that it takes to watch every single episode of One Piece. For many players, especially those who have day jobs, kids, or lives, this is a huge barrier. I apologise if this feels like it's come a little out of left field, but for context, in my recent video, Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, 5 More Things I Hate About You, I said this: the leveling experience in Final Fantasy XIV is a journey of epic proportions and not always in the most flattering sense. While the game itself is a masterpiece of MMO design with its intricate storylines, engaging gameplay, and vibrant community, there are some glaring issues that can make the leveling experience feel like an arduous, sometimes infuriating trek rather than an enjoyable adventure. One of the most frustrating aspects is the level sync system. This mechanic, designed to keep the game balanced and challenging when players participate in lower level content, often feels more like a punishment than a feature. Imagine spending hours upon hours leveling up your character, painstakingly unlocking and mastering new abilities, only to enter a dungeon or a duty and have half of your skill set stripped away. It's a jarring and disheartening experience to suddenly lose access to abilities you've grown accustomed to using, forcing you to revert to a simpler, less effective playstyle. This can be especially irritating for players who enjoy the complexity and strategy involved in using their full kit. The level sync system effectively dumbs down the gameplay, turning what should be a thrilling challenge into a mundane grind. And I can't tell you how many times I've been queued into Sestasha as a Reaper and just stood at the beginning of the dungeon looking at all the grayed out abilities like,
I have no idea how to breathe.
Moreover, the sheer volume of content that new players must wade through to unlock new jobs like the much anticipated Viper, very much the poster job for the expansion and could legitimately be the reason some people buy the bloody game, is nothing short of overwhelming. Imagine if you've never touched Final Fantasy XIV before and you buy the game based on the dual-wielding badass in the trailer. Then suddenly you log in and Square slaps you with here's 400 hours of content you gotta get through on jobs you're not interested in. I had thought at the time that this was an opinion largely held by most, and much like choosing Lalafell to avoid weirdos like Zoe over here attempting to ERP with me, I was so very, very wrong. Psst, someone didn't read their membership perks. But it's fine, Paneva over here can't even fucking read. As a result, you guys fairly criticised both sides of the point I made, so much so I realised having a dozen individual conversations in the comments was about as efficient as talking about Magic the Gathering on your first date. So I'm going to lay out my thoughts, reasoning and solutions in this video with more room and time to breathe. First, let's break down what it takes to level up in Final Fantasy XIV. From completing main story quests, side quests and dungeons to participating in various events and crafting, the game offers a plethora of activities. But despite this variety, the sheer amount of time required to hit max level is daunting when you consider the fact that the level itself largely means nothing. There is ways and means to reach 90 quickly. Hell, you can reach it without ever playing Endwalker, but the majority of the content in this game sits behind walls set up by the MSQ. This made sense originally, and certainly during the game's early years, but less so now with over 10 years of content and very little being done to condense it. On average, it takes up to 400 hours to reach the point where you have access to all content at current max level in the Hydaelyn Zodiac Saga, and this is not including any of the optional content provided both in Endwalker or expansions prior. For a casual player, this could mean months of consistent playtime, but why is this a problem? Simply put, the new player experience. Imagine jumping into a game where to even start enjoying the endgame content or playing with your high level friends, you need to invest hundreds of hours. Imagine being the young starry-eyed sprout who was logged in for the first time, having bought the game because of the cool dual-wielding Viper from the Dawntrail trailer. Or better yet, you wanna...
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
For many, this simply is too much to ask, and MMOs need a constant stream of new players to stay thriving. Hell, we literally call Realm Reborn the Great Filter. Let that sink in, because here's a question. Why are we pretending there is nothing we can do about this? I usually use this mid-video point to ask you to sub and join and donate, etc, but there is something far more important happening this month I wanted to talk about instead. June is PTSD Awareness Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness about post-traumatic stress disorder and supporting those affected by it. PTSD can result from experiencing or witnessing traumatic events and affects millions of people worldwide. This means more to me than anything else this month, as both a combat veteran who suffers with it and as a friend to way too many in my battalion that lost their battle with it. Check on people, guys. You'll be surprised how much it means sometimes when you're at your lowest and someone asks if you're okay, showing they were thinking about you. And to the sufferer, you're strong, but you're not invincible. Don't go at this alone. Share the weight that holds you down with someone. World is a better place with you in it, I promise. The journey through the early levels of Final Fantasy XIV, though rich in story, can feel slow and repetitive. New players often find themselves overwhelmed by the sheer volume of content they must navigate before reaching the level cap. This steep time commitment presents a significant barrier to entry, and the community has voiced their concerns. Many new players express frustration with the grind, stating that it hinders their enjoyment and discourages them from continuing. Veteran players also feel the impact, struggling to convince friends to join them in game. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV for years, and while I love the game, getting my friends to join has been a challenge. The amount of time they need to invest just to reach a point where we can play together meaningfully is a major deterrent. I have a friend right now who is currently making his way through Heavensward. Although he has fallen in love with the game during those moments, I'll keep this largely spoiler free, I find that keeping him motivated is more about ensuring he stays on track until the next big moment or event that I know will grip him, or in this case, the next character he can simp for. You horny boy, Johnny. However, if he, like some of my other friends, looks ahead and sees the mountain of content before him is not worth the effort, he might leave. This would be a grave loss, because if Heavensward captivated him, I know Shadowbringers and Endwalker will absolutely blow his mind. And to the absolute bean-brain hardcore player about to say just story skip like it's some sort of Gotham, I upload at 18:15, isn't it past your bedtime? But anyhow, no, this isn't the solution people thinks it is. Naturally, I can't hear you guys right now, but how many of you have had a friend do this and ultimately quit the game with zero idea what's going on? Preach even spoke about this recently with his raiding friends, the prime example. Now, I would like to offer a solution for this issue, but first, let me briefly address the other side of my point, level syncing. In my opinion, Final Fantasy XIV handles level syncing the worst of any MMOs, and I don't make that claim lightly. On paper, it sounds great. It allows high-level players to join lower-level dungeons and still be challenged. However, in practice, it can feel incredibly restrictive. Imagine this. You've spent countless hours unlocking and mastering your abilities, only to enter a sync dungeon and find half of them unusable. It's like being handed a shiny new weapon then being told you can't use it. This can be frustrating and make the gameplay feel clunky and disjointed. One of the most satisfying aspects of reaching high levels in Final Fantasy XIV is gaining new abilities and feeling your character grow stronger. However, level sync often takes this joy away by stripping you of your hard-earned skills. This not only disrupts the flow of combat, but also diminishes the sense of progression. It can make lower level content feel tedious and less engaging. Worst of all, the new abilities you gain in the latest expansion, you'll spend 90% of your time unable to use them, especially if you're a fan of old content and tome farming. I understand that purists appreciate ability sync when it comes to ultimate content or reprogress in old content, and that's fine. Attach the current system to the minimum item level option, allowing players to experience the content as if it were as current as reasonably possible. But for everyone else, if we're just doing roulettes, let us keep our full kit and simply stat squish us. I mean, I would literally do anything to be able to use AoE and Tasha whenever leveling roulette decides to test my patience. Now, I know it wouldn't be perfect, but who cares? It's old content. Now, as promised, here is my solution to the leveling problem in Final Fantasy XIV, inspired by the opening of Final Fantasy VII, where the story is retold by characters in a hotel room. I propose condensing the entire Hydaelyn Zodiac saga into a streamlined 50-hour story retelling. This retelling will be narrated by the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, offering a valuable opportunity to hear their perspectives and insights on the events we've experienced so far. Along the way, players would periodically be dropped into essential dungeons and trials, capturing the critical moments and climactic battles of the saga. This approach ensures players experience the rich narrative and pivotal events without the extensive time commitment currently required. Throughout this condensed journey, players would receive sufficient experience points from story completion and dungeon trial participation to level a single job to 90. This system would not only make the game's main story more accessible to newcomers and those with limited time, but also maintain the integrity and epic scale of the narrative. By focusing on major plot points and memorable encounters, players can still engage deeply with the story and characters, preserving the essence of the Hydaelyn Zodiac saga, while significantly reducing the overall time investment. Additionally, this method provides a permanent solution to the leveling problem, allowing for similar retellings of future sagas, such as the potential beach holiday saga Dawntrail is starting in years to come. This issue cannot continue to be ignored. Final Fantasy XIV is currently benefiting from having the best free trial in MMOs, so this will only go so far. Where does it end? 500 hours? 600 hours? 1,000 hours? The game's longevity depends on making its rich content accessible without overwhelming new and returning players. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Smash that subscribe button if you think I'm the best Lalafell to have on in the background while you're grinding Fate. And click this video. Nothing will happen if you don't, but if you listen closely enough, I mean really commit your heart to it, you will hear sounds.